Namaste everyone, my name is Lindsay Nova and I am a traveling yoga teacher. I teach yoga teacher trainings and aerial yoga teacher trainings all around the world. So if this is something that interests you, make sure you hit subscribe down below. You can see some of my content and check out my website lindsaynova.com to catch me on a training at a beautiful destination. Alright, so let's get on to today's video. So I've been wanting to make this video for a little while now. And I actually recorded it once before in Sri Lanka, but it was so windy where I was sitting right next to the ocean that I couldn't even hear myself in the video. So I am doing take 2, so round 2 here in my hotel room in Bangkok, Thailand. Are wondering who I am, who is this Lindsay Nova woman? I am a traveling yoga teacher. So I have been traveling the world for 2.5 years. And I am currently based in Southeast Asia, so I teach a lot in Thailand, Sri Lanka, and India. But I have also taught in Central America, and I also have courses coming up in Europe this year. So I'm super excited about that, and I'm really passionate about spreading my passions with the world. So recently I posed a question to some of my followers. If you wanted to ask me any question about being a traveling yoga instructor, what would it be? So I had a few responses and I just wanted to take that time to answer them now. So the first one is, do you think that it would be something I could do with 2 kids and no partner? Well, I don't know. I don't have any children, so I'm not really experienced in that, but I definitely see people traveling with their children all of the time. I think, you just have to get used to certain things. I'll definitely say that my standard of living when I first started traveling was definitely a lot lower than my standard of living in the United States. So that may not be something that you want to sacrifice for your children if you're planning to travel long term. However, slowly, as I have sustained myself at this lifestyle, I now prioritize the things that I think are important to me. So getting a nice room, eating good food, taking comfortable transportation, and that sort of thing. Whereas in the past, I have cut corners and kind of gotten by cheaply, and I've been robbed in Vietnam and just been in some other travel situations that haven't been the best, and maybe I missed a flight or something. So usually I don't like to cut corners anymore, and I'm willing to pay for something that's going to make me feel good. As far as being a traveling yoga teacher with children, it really depends on exactly what the gig is that you're doing. I think reaching out to resorts and stuff like that may be a little bit more of a challenge, because most of the time, you may be working in exchange for food and accommodation and a salary. And so if there's more mouths to feed, that may not be something that they're willing to provide. However, if you are a yoga teacher and you are just traveling and wanting to set up your own workshops, by all means, that's certainly something you can do. However, what you do with the children when you're teaching, what you do with them, that I don't know. So you would have to figure out some kind of nanny services or a babysitter or something like that, to either accompany you or in the area itself. Hope that helps somewhat. I wish I could answer that question better, but unfortunately I don't know. Let's see, what is the next question here? What is the coolest place you've done yoga setting wise? Like on top of a mountain, for example. Wow, I've done yoga in a lot of really epic places since I have been traveling. Probably one of my favorite spots that I was practicing in was at a resort called Aqua in Nicaragua. This was actually one of the first jobs that I got when I started my traveling teaching career. And this resort has this beautiful palapa, so it's like a wooden deck with a woven top made out of some kind of palms woven together, and it's just overlooking the ocean. It's up on a hill, and there's a mountain in the background, and the sunsets there are just absolutely out of this world. Cotton candy exploding all over the sky every time the sun goes down. And so that was definitely some of the most beautiful experiences that I had teaching and also practicing yoga. But I've also practiced yoga in the Sacred Valley of Peru. I've taught hula hooping to children on my birthday, on my 31st birthday in Peru. That was one of the most special days of my life. I've done yoga on trains in Vietnam as they're moving. I've done lots of yoga in my hotel rooms. I do yoga in my bed. I do yoga even if I've stayed in a dorm at a hostel, I will do yoga or Pilates or meditate, especially if they have the little curtains. I don't say I'm in hostels too much anymore, but I have definitely still been able to practice, especially if there's some privacy, so that's nice. There's a pretty cool studio here in Bangkok that has like a really nice view of the whole city, so that's a pretty epic place. And where else? I've been so many places. I practice on the beach a lot. Probably one of my favorite beach shalas is in Sri Lanka at Talala Retreat. So if you follow me, you know I've spent 5 months teaching there in the last couple of years, so you can definitely check that out. And where else? Yeah, I've taught yoga next to Lake Atitlan in Guatemala, so that lake is really super special to me. Where else? I'm trying to think of some other countries I've been to. I've done yoga on the beach in India, in Goa. Practicing yoga in Dharamshala. I mean, that's like the home of the Dalai Lama, but none of the areas really had like super amazing views. But just practicing in that area, just sometimes it's not so much about like what the area looks like, but it's like, what is the frequency, what is the energetic vibration of this place, and how are you magnetized by that? How does that up level or upgrade your own frequency? So for example, I was just in Pushkar, India, which is in Rajasthan, and this is a holy town. It is filled with hundreds of temples. It is home to the only Brahma temple in the world. And while I was there, I could really feel the sacred energy of this place. And I spent a lot of time actually in meditation, not only by myself, but also with a friend that I met, and visiting a lot of the local sacred sites outside of town. And because I could feel the sacred energy of this place, I felt that it was really important for me to spend a lot of time in my own meditation, in my own energetic vibration, and to also send this energy out into the world as I continue to work on not only my own healing, but the healing and the up-leveling of this entire planetary frequency. Here's the next question. Are you happy? Yes, I am happy. I am actually the happiest I have ever been in my entire life, and that's really something amazing for me to say. I've been sick. I've had a cold for a little bit over a week, but nothing major. It didn't like knock me down for the count or anything like that. So I have struggled with depression and anxiety my entire life. A lot of people who know me may know this. A lot of people who know me as a yoga teacher may not actually know this about me. But yes, I am happy, but it's not always like that. I recently went through one of the darkest depressions of my whole life just a few months ago, actually. So right now it's February 2019. So in October of 2018, I was the most depressed I had been in about 4 years, and I couldn't do anything except for just sleep. So I really just had to take that time off for myself. You know, the good news is that in my line of work, you know, as a yoga teacher, a lot of people actually come to yoga seeking help for mental health conditions. Now, as a yoga teacher, I am not qualified as a psychological help or counselor or anything like that. But what I can do is I can share with others tools that have helped me, such as meditation, asana, mantra, mudra, and other things outside of the realm of yoga, such as Reiki, crystal therapy, chakra healing, and other sorts of self-care techniques, affirmations, intentions, new moon rituals, etc. So all of these are things that have really helped me, and these are things that I include in a lot of my teachings with my students. So, I think that when it comes to being happy, it's sort of like, this is something that we all want. We all want to be happy, but in order to know happiness, we must know the opposite of happiness. And as humans, we are full spectrum humans. We are allowed to feel the full spectrum of our emotions, which is everything from anger and sadness to guilt to happiness, joy, bliss, ecstasy, all of this. Like, we are all allowed to feel that. And for most of my life, I was seeking some kind of balance. And I thought that balance was somewhere like right in the middle of these two places, like somewhere right in the middle of sadness and happiness. That was where I was supposed to be. And as I was trying to find this place, I started to feel not happy but not sad. I just felt kind of bored, kind of blah, like I didn't have any purpose with my life. And when I started traveling 2.5 years ago, it took me a little while, but I finally found my purpose. And I truly believe that when you align with your purpose, with your soul purpose, with why your soul decided to incarnate here in this manifested reality at this time, that you begin to live in a frequency that is aligned with the universe. And the universe doesn't respond to whether something is negative or positive. However, it just responds to energy. So if you are emanating positive energy and you are aligned with your soul, then the universe is going to respond to that and give all of this abundance back to you, right? So that's a lot of what I've been learning over the last 2.5 years since I have been traveling. And in addition to that, I've been doing a lot of healing work. So I've been healing, a lot of trauma that I experienced in my physical body, especially as with my background as a dancer. I experienced a lot of injuries, and I also have experienced some trauma, in other ways. And I've also been working on a lot of forgiveness with my family. So, I've come to try really just a myriad of modalities, from shamanic plant medicine to Thai protection tattoos, and all sorts of different things. And, I can't really say whether or not one thing has helped me, but I know that, trying different things has helped me. And so I can't say that just this one thing is the one thing that did it, and I can't say that I won't have a depression ever again, but I will know that I am allowed to feel that way, allow myself to feel tired, and give myself permission to rest when necessary so that I can maintain this sort of energy. And I also recognize that I would not be in this place, in this ability to hold space like I am right now, if I had not gone through that deep, dark depression that I had gone through in October. And literally, I feel as if I am the lotus blossom, right? Blossoming up toward the sun. But you cannot have a lotus without the mud. So you can't have the light without the dark. And that's just basically how it goes. Somebody is asking, how important is social media to help grow and keep up relations with students? Okay, that's a good one. Social media is actually something that is pretty important. It's something that not a lot of yogis or yoga teachers like to do all the time, and I like to think that I have a moderate social media following, and I put, some energy into using it and utilizing it. However, a lot of yoga teachers think that it can be really narcissistic or ego-centered or something like that. But the truth of the matter is that If you have a talent or a skill or even a spiritual teaching and you desire to, make a profit from your passion, then you have to monetize it somehow. And you cannot be afraid to put yourself out there, whether it's on social media or through an advertisement or whatever, and luckily we have multiple platforms. And so I utilize all of these platforms: Instagram, Facebook, the business pages, personal pages, etc. And using a blog, making a YouTube channel. That's something I've been working more at lately, is my YouTube channel. So having yourself out there on multiple outlets, I think, is really important, especially as a yoga teacher, especially doing the work that I'm doing right now. So right now I am a yoga teacher trainer, and I have an aerial yoga program that I run all over the world. So, people, they want to know who you are before they give you your money. Like, they're not just going to, it does happen, right? People can find you and say, oh wow, like this looks amazing, I'm just going to sign up. But most of the time they're going to research first. So they're going to want to find your website. They're going to want to read reviews and testimonials. They want to see videos of you. They want to see how many followers you have on Instagram. They want to see how do you respond to people. They want to see how you respond to an email or a message on Facebook or Instagram, that sort of thing. So yeah, I think that social media is definitely super important. Biggest advice would be just to be authentic, to be real. You don't have to copy someone's like hashtag goddess vibes, or whatever. Just be you. And, yeah, that's my biggest advice on using social media. Okay, how do you get places to live for that amount of time, and how do you renew your visa? How do you pay U.S. taxes? How do you pay taxes in that country of residence? Okay, so I talked a little bit about this in the first question. So most of the time, if I'm doing a teaching residency somewhere, I will have my food and accommodation provided for me. So if I'm teaching for like a resort or sometimes even a studio, it really just depends. I almost always have something provided for me, okay, and in addition to a salary. So for me, this is a must. I have been teaching yoga since 2007, so I'm not in the let me just go teach at a hostel in exchange for a bed at a dorm game, okay? Like, that's not my game. If you're like fresh out of yoga teacher training school, like, cool, great, you can play that game. It's there for you to get experience, but for me, that's not for me, okay? So I negotiate with all of the places that I teach for, and at this point, I don't even apply for jobs anymore. So, a lot of people have also asked me, like, how do I sustain my lifestyle? So I basically have done a mixture of a few things over the last couple of years. I have been doing yoga teacher residencies and teaching on yoga teacher trainings that provide me with food and accommodation and a salary. And in addition to that, I started my own aerial yoga teacher training. And then I was creating content. So I was writing online. I was writing yoga and Pilates articles online for the last 2 years. And I recently gave that up in October when I went through that recent bout of depression, because I realized that I no longer wanted to work for somebody else, and that I wanted to focus all of my energy and attention on what I truly wished and desired to create. And so far, it's been really amazing, and I've seen a lot of success and growth from that already, and I'm just really happy that I made that choice. However, if you are interested in becoming a yoga writer or other ways, to sustain yourself while you travel abroad, if you want to work and be a digital nomad, you can use this platform called Upwork.com. And basically, if you have any skill, graphic design, web design, whatever, you don't even have to have a skill. You can be someone's personal assistant. You can find a job on there. If you have a laptop, you can find a job and you can work overseas. The truth is that I make half as much money as most of my friends who live in the United States, and I get to travel the world. And basically, I buy flights, I don't pay rent, I have very little expenses. And whatever I want, I just figure out a way to make money for it, doing the things that I love. That's just my life, is turning my passions into profit. Question here, how do you renew your visa? So this is always an interesting thing. It really depends on the country. So most countries, you may get a visa on arrival. Other countries you may have to apply in advance. So, if I am going to, say, Sri Lanka, I apply for the visa in advance, and then while I'm there, the resort that I'm teaching at will extend it for me. But most places you can just go to the consulate or the embassy and you pay a fee and then you extend it yourself. So in Thailand, you get 30 days on arrival, and then I just go to the next island and I pay the fee and I extend it myself. For India, I have gotten a 1-year visa, and for that one, you just have to leave the country every 3 months, and then you just come back. Why it's like that, I don't really know. India just always seems to make everything kind of complicated. And then you have like Costa Rica. So in Costa Rica, you get 90 days on arrival, and then a lot of people do these visa runs. So that usually means they go to Nicaragua or Panama and they come right back. So sometimes they may just go over the border for a few hours. Maybe they'll go shopping and like buy something that's like cheaper in that country and then come back. Sometimes they may go for like a few nights and like take a holiday over there. I never really got into doing the visa run situation because I lived anywhere for longer than 3 months in the last 2.5 years. For some people that may sound really ungrounding, but actually for me, because I'm teaching yoga, because I'm doing what I love, I feel super grounded in what I do. And I've actually had people tell me that they think that I am a super grounded person. So I'll just take that as a compliment and move on. Yeah, I've never gotten into doing the visa run thing. Usually I just say, okay, my 2 or 3 months or 30 days is up and I'm done with this contract and I am ready to move on. However, the one thing that kind of sucks is that I have had to extend my visa even if I've only been over by like 1 or 2 days here in Thailand, because it is just not worth it, especially, since I come here so frequently, it's not worth it to overstay. And in some countries you just get a fine, and apparently you do get a fine here, but you could also go to jail, or you could get deported and never be allowed back into the country, especially if you overstay by like a lot. So for me, it's just not worth it. It's just worth it for me to go and extend my visa and pay the fee than to overstay because it's illegal. How do I pay US taxes? Just the same way that you all do. So I just file. I do my own taxes online, and I file them myself. I file them, as a freelancer, and super easy. So the truth of the matter is that some countries, yes, maybe like if you're going to Australia or hosting workshops in the United States, maybe those countries, some people are getting actual visas for, depending on, the scope of work that they're doing. However, most businesses are not giving work visas to yoga teachers. Maybe if the contract was for 6 months to 1 year, then yes, there would be a work visa involved. But unfortunately, getting a work visa in another country is an expensive and timely thing to do, and it's something that most people are not willing to do. So, and for some reason in the yoga industry, especially the yoga tourism industry and the teacher training industry that I'm circulating through, there seems to be this consensus that most teachers don't want to stay anywhere for 2 or 3 months at a time, and we just all kind of like go stir crazy or whatever. I really struggle with this topic because, in yoga, one of the yamas is satya. So satya is truthfulness. And so, to me, it doesn't seem fair. It's sort of like Western privilege, that you could even call it white privilege, that I get to come into other countries and work, whereas my own country, the United States, is building a wall to keep immigrants out. And it just doesn't seem fair to me often. And so this is a concept that I really struggle with as I go around the world teaching yoga. What country has the most flexible people? Good one. That's really up for debate. There's a lot of flexible people in India, for sure. I mean, that's the motherland of yoga asana. Yoga is not all about how flexible your body is. I think that the flexibility of your body is directly related to the flexibility of your mind. as well. So, but there's just as many flexible people in the United States and Europe and doing contortion and whatnot. So I don't think really it ultimately matters. Here's the next question. How do you organize your life? How do you keep up a daily practice when routine goes out the window? So how do I organize my life? To be honest, I'm not really super organized. I have a long to-do list in my phone in the notes section that I just sort of scribble on, and I look at it. I make sure I look at it every day. The one practice that I do every day is japa meditation. So the first thing I do when I wake up in the morning is I recite silently 3 things that I'm grateful for, and then I do a mantra meditation using these mala beads here. And so I have various mantra that I use. It usually just depends on how I'm feeling that day. So the first thing I have to do for my day is I have to align my energetic frequency and my breathing. So I do meditation, I do pranayama, and then I may journal, and then usually I'm ready to go. Usually I'm going to teach. Then usually after I teach, I usually teach around 7:30 in the morning. Usually then I do my own yoga practice, and then I usually eat after that. So then I usually don't check my phone until I'm done with all of that. So I'll usually start responding to my emails and doing some computer stuff around late morning, early afternoon. And then I may or may not have to teach in the evening. So then that will just dictate, what I'm going to do in the evening, which could be working on a personal project, or it could be creating content, or it could just be maybe doing another practice like aerial yoga, or I'm a very active person. So maybe I'm going dancing, maybe I'm also very social, maybe I'm going to a social event, maybe I'm going to a temple. I always like to stay active doing something in the area, and also like hiking or whatever. So that's not really like the greatest answer to your question, but yeah, when things sort of feel like they are getting thrown out of the window, I always come back to my japa, so my mantra meditation. This is the thing that really grounds me. And I know that if I haven't done it in a few days, then something is definitely going to be off. So I just always remember that this is the practice that I have to come back to. And some other techniques I use is, I make lists for everything. Some people are really good at using planners and bullet journals and all of that stuff. I just have a few notebooks that I travel with, and I keep some lists. I set some goals, things that I'm working on. I'll say for this week of February 11th, I am calling in blah, 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 and I will, write down everything, and then I'll check off, everything that I have accomplished, and then whatever I haven't accomplished, then I'll put it on the list for next week. So that is another way that I try to stay organized. Oh, and then the last question, how do you do it? How do you do it all? Well, I just do it, I just do it. This is the thing. This is the beauty of life is, when you are really truly aligned with what it is that you want to be doing, then somehow it just happens. It doesn't even feel like work. You just is kind of similar to how do you organize your life? How do you keep up with everything? How do you make it all happen? I also and this goes back to social media. So yeah, I make sure that I post on social media almost every day. I'm not super hard on myself about it. I do give myself breaks. I do also, like to take breaks from being online, so turning off the computer, shutting everything down, going out into nature. I make sure that I go swimming or hiking or I'm barefoot in nature several times a week is super important to me. I cannot live in a city anymore. I can only do a few days in a city. I find it really challenging to be around a lot of pollution and noise. And so for me, being in nature is very important for how I feel, and how I feel will completely dictate how the rest of everything else goes. Since I left the United States 2.5 years ago, I have quit caffeine, I have quit drinking alcohol, I have quit smoking, I have quit doing drugs, I have quit binge eating, and I have quit binge watching Netflix. So even though in the United States I was teaching yoga, I was teaching Pilates and circus arts and performing. I was living my dream life. I felt like there was something more. I felt like there was a seed of something inside of me that I knew wanted to sprout, but I didn't know how. I always wanted to travel the world. I always wanted to teach yoga and perform overseas, but I felt so stuck. So it wasn't until I moved to Florida from Ohio in 2014-15 that people finally started to take me more seriously. And that's when I got my first overseas contract, actually performing in a circus company in Panama City, Panama at the Hard Rock Hotel, which we did have work visas for, by the way. And and then from there I moved to California. And again, people were taking me more seriously. And so, you know, even though I was living in California, I had this awesome apartment and I had a boyfriend, etc., I was coming home in between teaching my classes and I was completely drained and empty of energy. I was depressed. I was a little bit overweight. I weighed about maybe like, I don't know, anywhere from 6 to 10 kilos more than I do now. And even though I was like exercising all the time, I was doing aerial and etc., all kinds of stuff, I was not happy. And I knew that there was something more that I wanted to create, because I know that ultimately I am a creator, just like we all are. And we all have the possibility to create our dream life. So when I began traveling the world and my basic needs were taken care of, I didn't have to worry about rent or, you know, any other bills really. I had all of this time and space to practice my yoga and meditation and to create the programs and the content that I wanted to create, which I actually enjoyed doing. So really, you know, that's all I needed. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for joining me. Again, my name is Lindsay Nova, and if you have any more questions on what it's like to be a traveling yoga teacher, just drop them down in the comments below and make sure that you hit subscribe. Namaste. See you later.